Have you ever found yourself just like trapped in a loop of negative thoughts, feeling stuck maybe, or held back by a fear that feels kind of irrational?
Mm-hmm.
What if you could learn to genuinely talk back to that nagging inner critic, or maybe finally step out of the shadow of some persistent worry?
Yeah,
Today, we're not just talking about a therapy. We're looking at a system, really, that a lot of people are calling a sort of mental operating system upgrade,
that's a good way to put it.
teaching you how to debug, essentially, and maybe rewrite those unhelpful thought patterns, reclaim some control.
Exactly. Our deep dive today is into CBT basics, understanding cognitive behavioral therapy simply. And like you said, it isn't about just learning some psychological concept by rote.
Right.
It's really about uncovering a practical, real-world framework, something that can genuinely boost your mental well-being.
Okay, so our mission then for this deep dive is to pull out the most sort of potent nuggets of knowledge from, well, a stack of sources on CBT.
From the core principles.
Yeah, to the practical techniques and how it can actually impact your daily life. So get ready for maybe some surprising insights, those aha moments, hopefully, all delivered, in a way that helps you feel informed but not overwhelmed. So let's unpack this.
Sounds good. So what is CBT really at its core? Well, it's a very common type of talk therapy, but here's a key difference.
Okay.
It's typically short-term. We're often talking weeks, maybe a few months.
Not years, then.
No, not usually. And instead of digging really deep into your past, like some therapies do, CBT is much more focused, laser-focused, really, on giving you concrete tools.
Tools for what, specifically?
For solving your current problems.
Yeah.
And for navigating future challenges, too.
Ah, okay. That distinction feels important. It's less about endless introspection, maybe, and more about actionable skills for right now.
Precisely. And the foundation of CBT, the thing that really defines its approach, is often pictured as the CBT triangle.
The triangle, right. I've heard of this.
Yeah, it's this core idea that your thoughts, your emotions, and your behaviors are all linked up. They're constantly influencing each other.
Okay, explain that connection a bit more. How does that work in practice?
Well, what's really fascinating here, and often that first aha moment for people, is just recognizing the sheer power of this link.
Okay.
If you find yourself caught in a cycle of, say, negative thoughts, I'm not good enough, or this will definitely go wrong, those thoughts will pretty predictably lead to negative feelings, right? Sadness, anxiety, frustration.
Makes sense.
And then those feelings often trigger unhelpful actions, maybe avoiding situations or giving up easily.
Okay, I see the downward spiral potential there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But here's the breakthrough part. If you can learn to reframe those thoughts,
Reframe, like change them.
change how you see them, yeah. Look at them in a more balanced or maybe just more realistic way. When you do that, it fundamentally shifts your emotional state.
Ah.
And crucially, it empowers you to choose more helpful behaviors instead.
So it means our actions and feelings aren't just about what happens to us.
Right. They're more influenced by our perception of what happens, how we interpret the event.
That's huge.
It is. So the goal, really, is to learn to spot these unhelpful thought patterns when they pop up, and then gain the power to consciously change them. That's what leads to lasting positive shifts.
That's a massive shift in perspective, isn't it? It suggests we're not just, passive victims of our circumstances. We're actually active participants in our own mental landscape.
That's the core message, empowerment.
So where did this idea even come from? CBT isn't brand new, is it?
Not at all. It actually has roots going way back, even to the early 1900s. Figures like Alfred Adler, he was already paying attention to how our cognitions, our thinking styles, could contribute to distress.
Interesting. That early.
Yeah, but the real sort of cognitive revolution in therapy really kicked off around the mid-20th century.
Okay.
You had people like Albert Ellis back in the 1950s. He developed something called rational emotive behavior therapy, or REBT. And Ellis really targeted what he called irrational beliefs. These are those rigid, absolute thoughts, like, I must be perfect to be worthy, or everyone must like me.
Oh, I recognize those kinds of thoughts. Very black and white.
Exactly. And he gave us this really foundational model, the ABC model. Have you heard of that?
Vaguely. Remind me. A, B, C.
Okay, so A is the activating event. That's just the objective situation, what actually happened.
Okay.
B stands for your beliefs about that event, specifically the often negative or irrational thoughts you have about A.
Right. The interpretation.
Yes. And C is the consequence. That's the negative feelings and maybe behaviors that result.
A, B, C. Activating event, belief, consequence. Okay.
And Ellis's really genius insight was this. It's not the event A itself that directly causes the negative consequence, C.
It's not.
No. It's your irrational belief system, B, about A that's the real driver of C.
Okay, can you give an example? That helps make it concrete.
Sure. Let's use the example of Gina. Say Gina gets a low mark on a math test. That's the activating event, A.
Right, straightforward event.
Her belief, B, might be something like, I must get good grades, otherwise I'm worthless. That's a pretty harsh, irrational belief.
Definitely.
So the consequence, C, is that she feels utterly depressed.
Hopeless, maybe.
Okay, I see the link.
Now, a therapist using Ellis's RDBT approach would help Gina see that, okay, getting a low mark is naturally disappointing. That's rational.
Sure.
But it doesn't actually make her worthless as a person. That's the irrational leap. She can feel sad or frustrated, but this healthy, proportional emotions. But the belief is what plunges her into depression. By challenging that belief, she can change the consequence. C, maybe feel disappointed, but motivated to study more instead of spiraling.
Wow, that subtle shift in belief makes a huge difference in the outcome.
A massive difference. Then, sort of building on this, in the 1960s, you had Aaron T. Beck. He developed what's now known as cognitive therapy.
Okay, related but different. Yeah, closely related. Beck focused specifically on what he called automatic thoughts. These are those immediate, fleeting thoughts that just pop into our heads, often without us even noticing.
Like knee-jerk reactions mentally.
Kind of, yeah. And he also talked about the cognitive triad. This is a pattern of negative thoughts specifically about yourself, about the world around you, and about the future.
Self, world, future.
Okay, and this period with Ellis and Beck really cemented what people call the second wave of CBT. It solidified its place as a major force in psychotherapy.
Okay, so we've covered this thought, feeling, behavior link and a bit of the where it came from. That's a solid foundation.
Right.
But I think for a lot of listeners, the big question is, okay, how do I actually do this? What are the practical steps?
Absolutely. That's the crucial next step. Let's get into the how-to.
Yeah, let's shift focus now to the techniques, the really powerful tools that make CBT so actionable.
Okay. So one of the things that really stands out about CBT is how interactive it is. It's often described using this term, collaborative empiricism.
Collaborative empiricism. Sounds a bit academic. Break that down.
It does, but the idea is simple. Collaborative means you're a partner in your own therapy. You're not just passively receiving treatment, you're actively involved.
Okay, working with the therapist.
Exactly. And empiricism means you and the therapist basically act like scientists together.
Scientists? How so?
You treat your thoughts and beliefs almost like hypotheses, things to be tested out. You gather evidence for and against them based on your actual experience.
Ah, I like that. You become your own mind scientist, testing your assumptions.
Precisely. You're actively gathering data about how your own mind works.
Okay, cool. And I heard there's a simple way to think about many of these techniques, something like the 3 C's.
Yeah, that's a really helpful, kind of simplified framework that a lot of CBT boils down to, especially for tackling those unhelpful thoughts. The 3 C's: catch, check, change.
Catch, check, change. Okay, let's walk through those. What's catch?
So catch is the first step. It's about becoming aware, noticing and identifying the specific thoughts that are leading to your difficult emotions.
How do you notice them? They can be pretty quick sometimes.
Your feelings are actually the cues. If you suddenly feel a wave of anxiety or anger or sadness, that's your signal. Pause and try to catch the thought that just flashed through your mind right before the feeling hit.
Okay, use the emotion as a trigger to look for the thought. Got it. What's next? Check.
Right, check is where you put on your scientist hat.
Right.
You critically examine that thought you just caught.
How? What questions do you ask?
You ask things like, how accurate is this thought, really? Is it based on solid facts, or is it more based on how I'm feeling right now? Is this thought actually helpful? Is it helping me move forward, or is it just keeping me stuck?
So questioning its truthfulness, but also its usefulness.
Exactly. You're evaluating it from different angles.
And the final C, change.
Change. This is the active part. It involves deliberately reframing the thought, shifting it to something that is more accurate, more balanced, and genuinely more helpful.
So consciously choosing a different internal narrative.
Yes, one that serves you better. It takes practice, but it's a learnable skill.
Okay, catch, check, change. That's a great framework. Now let's dive into some specific techniques that help you do those things. Maybe the most central one is cognitive restructuring or reframing.
Definitely. Cognitive restructuring or reframing is absolutely core. This technique involves taking a really hard look at those common negative thought patterns. You might hear them called cognitive distortions.
Distortions, like,
Yeah, things like overgeneralization, I always mess things up, or catastrophizing, this is going to be a complete disaster. Personalization, it's all my fault, all or nothing thinking, seeing things in black and white, no gray areas, emotional reasoning. I feel anxious, so something bad must be about to happen.
right, those mental shortcuts that aren't always accurate.
Exactly. And what's crucial is understanding they're often automatic, kind of unconscious habits of thinking that can pull us away from reality. Unpacking why your mind jumps to, say, catastrophizing. That's where the real work happens.
Can you give a practical example of reframing one of those?
Sure. Let's say you catch yourself thinking, I completely blew that presentation. I'm totally useless at my job. That's pretty harsh, right? All or nothing.
Yeah, definitely.
Cognitive restructuring helps you break that down. You check it. Okay, maybe the presentation didn't go perfectly, but was it completely blown? Am I totally useless? Probably not.
Find the gray area.
Exactly. Then you change it. Reframe it to something more balanced, more accurate, like, okay, that presentation wasn't my best work, and I'm disappointed. But I'm generally a valuable employee, and I contribute in lots of other ways. One presentation doesn't define my entire worth or capability.
Okay. It's about finding nuance, not just sticking with the extreme label.
Precisely. And a really powerful, concrete tool for doing this is self-monitoring, often using something called a thought record or a thought journal.
A thought record, like writing things down.
Exactly. Just the act of writing down your thoughts, feelings, and the situations that trigger them helps you start seeing the patterns. You identify those distortions more easily. The NHS actually has a great simple thought record example we could walk through.
Yeah, let's do it. I think a practical example really helps.
Okay, so imagine the situation is you're annoyed at yourself because you forgot to run an errand you promised to do.
Okay. Happens to the best of us.
Your initial feelings might be frustrated, maybe feeling a bit stupid or unreliable.
Yeah, I can see that.
Then you try to identify the unhelpful thought that came with those feelings. Maybe it's something like, I never get anything right, I'm useless, I can't even be trusted with simple tasks.
Ouch. That's a strong one.
It is. Now, the next step in the thought record is crucial. You list evidence to support this thought.
Okay, so maybe you think, well, it's true, I did forget this errand, and maybe I forgot something last week too.
Right. You acknowledge whatever sliver of truth might be there. But then comes the really important part. Listing the evidence against the unhelpful thought.
Challenging it.
Yes. So here, you might write, hang on. I remembered everything else I needed to do today. I actually manage a lot of tasks successfully. People often rely on me, and I usually come through. I'm generally very reliable.
Okay, bringing in the counter evidence.
Exactly. And seeing that written down naturally leads you to form an alternative, more balanced thought. Something like, okay, I forgot this one thing, and that's frustrating. But I remember far more than I forget. Forgetting something sometimes doesn't make me useless or untrustworthy. Everyone makes mistakes.
That feels much more realistic and less damaging.
Right. And after going through this process, you check in with your feelings again. Your final feeling might shift from stupid and useless to something like, still a bit annoyed maybe, but calmer, more realistic, maybe even more self-compassionate.
That process makes those abstract thought patterns really concrete and manageable. I can see how doing that regularly would make a difference.
It really does. And building on that, another technique is Socratic questioning.
Like the philosopher.
Exactly like the philosopher. It's about asking yourself critical questions to challenge your assumptions, like, is this thought based on facts or just feelings? What's the evidence for and against this thought? What's the worst that could realistically happen, and how would I cope if it did? Are there any other ways to look at this situation?
So using questions to guide yourself to a more rational perspective.
Precisely. It helps you gather your own evidence against those distorted thoughts, just like in the thought record.
Okay, what else?
Well, sometimes therapists use a cost-benefit analysis.
For a thought, how does that work?
You literally examine the pros and cons of holding on to a specific negative thought pattern or belief. What are the advantages of thinking this way? What are the disadvantages?
Interesting. Are there usually advantages to negative thoughts?
Sometimes they feel protective or familiar, or maybe they get you sympathy. But often when you really weigh it up, the costs, the anxiety, the sadness, the missed opportunities far outweigh any perceived benefits.
I remember hearing about Hannah Gadsby's comedy special, Nanette. She talked about that, didn't she? With self-deprecating humor.
That's a brilliant real-world example. She realized the cost of constantly putting herself down for laughs was damaging her sense of self, and it outweighed the benefit to her comedy career. So she made a conscious change.
Yeah, that resonated with a lot of people, myself included. We make those trade-offs sometimes without realizing the cost.
Exactly. So cost-benefit analysis helps make that conscious.
Okay, so those are mostly about challenging the thoughts themselves. Does CBT also deal with changing behaviors directly?
Absolutely. That's the B in CBT.
Mm.
Behavioral techniques are just as important. One major one, especially for anxiety and phobias, is exposure therapy.
Exposure therapy. That sounds intense.
It can feel that way initially, but it's done very systematically and gradually. The idea is to safely, step by step, expose yourself to the things you fear or avoid.
Why?
While you're doing it, you're actively learning and practicing coping mechanisms. It's done in small, manageable steps, often starting with things that cause only mild anxiety. Over time, facing the fear in controlled ways actually makes you feel less vulnerable and more confident that you can cope. The fear reduces.
Okay, gradual and with support, not just throwing you in the deep end.
Definitely not. It's carefully planned. Then there's also activity scheduling and behavioral activation.
What's that about?
This is really helpful if you tend to withdraw or avoid activities because of low mood or anxiety. It involves deliberately planning and scheduling activities, often starting with simple, enjoyable, or necessary ones.
He's putting them in the diary.
Pretty much. Committing to doing them, even if you don't feel like it initially. This helps break the cycle of avoidance, establishes positive habits, and gives you real-world opportunities to practice the cognitive skills you're learning. It gets you moving again.
I can see how that would help with depression, getting you re-engaged with life.
Exactly. And related to that, for people who struggle with catastrophic thinking, those what if it all goes wrong spirals.
Yeah.
Behavioral experiments can be really useful.
How do those work?
Before you do something that makes you anxious, you make a specific prediction about the terrible thing you think will happen.
Okay.
Then you do the activity, and afterward, you objectively compare what actually happened to your prediction.
Ah, like a reality check.
Precisely. More often than not, the catastrophe you imagined doesn't materialize, or it's far less severe. Doing these experiments repeatedly helps weaken the believability of those catastrophic thoughts.
Testing your fears against reality. Makes sense.
CBT also incorporates relaxation and stress reduction techniques. Things like deep breathing exercises, progressive muscle relaxation, guided imagery.
The classics.
Yeah, but they're taught as practical skills within CBT to help lower your overall stress levels and increase your sense of control, especially when facing anxiety triggers.
Useful life skills in general, really.
Definitely. And one more technique worth mentioning is successive approximation.
Successive approximation.
It sounds fancy, but it just means breaking down big, overwhelming tasks into smaller, more achievable steps.
Ah, like climbing a ladder one rung at a time.
Exactly. Each small success builds your confidence and makes the next step feel less daunting. You work your way up incrementally until you achieve the bigger goal that initially seemed impossible.
I know I've used that myself for big projects. Just break it down into tiny pieces.
It's incredibly empowering, isn't it? So that gives you a good overview of the how. Now, should we talk about who actually benefits from all this and why CBT gets called the gold standard so often?
Yeah, let's do that, because this next point really broadened my understanding, and I think it will for listeners too. I kind of assumed you needed like a formal diagnosis to get CBT, but that's not really the case.
Not at all. That's
Yeah.
a common misconception. You absolutely do not need a medical diagnosis to benefit from CBT principles and techniques.
So who can it help then, if not just people with diagnoses?
It's incredibly helpful for everyday life challenges. Things like coping better with stress, managing strong emotions, anger, fear, sadness in healthier ways, dealing with grief, resolving conflicts, even improving communication skills and assertiveness.
Wow. Okay. So pretty much anyone could find some value in it.
Pretty much anyone who wants to understand their mind better and learn practical coping skills. But that said, it is also highly effective for a very wide range of clinically recognized conditions,
Such as?
often used either alone or alongside other treatments, like medication, for things like anxiety disorders, social anxiety, panic disorder, generalized anxiety, depression, OCD, PTSD, various addictions, eating disorders, chronic pain management, bipolar disorder, sleep problems, phobias. The list is quite long.
Okay, so very broad application, from everyday stress to serious conditions.
Yes, and it's suitable across the lifespan, too, from children right through to older adults. with appropriate adaptations, of course.
So why the gold standard label then? What makes it stand out?
Well, a huge part of it is the evidence base. CBT is by far the most researched form of psychotherapy out there.
Meaning lots of studies have looked at it.
Exactly. There's a massive body of rigorous scientific research consistently showing that it works for many different problems. It has a strong empirical basis.
Okay, evidence matters.
It really does.
Right.
And significantly, the research generally shows that no other form of psychotherapy has been systematically proven to be superior to CBT. Often, if there are differences found in studies comparing therapies, the evidence tends to favor CBT.
That's a strong claim. Why do you think that is?
Well, part of it might be that its theoretical models, how it explains the mind works, focusing on information processing, align really well with our current scientific understanding of the brain.
It fits with cognitive science.
Yes, it has that strong scientific underpinning, which gives it a lot of credibility. Plus, it's practical.
How so?
It's typically structured, it's goal-oriented, what you're working towards. And as we said, it's often time-limited. Many people find that appealing. Often just 6 to 14 sessions can make a real difference.
Faster results, potentially.
Potentially, yes. And I think the real beauty of it, the core appeal for many, is that it empowers you. It gives you tangible tools and skills.
Right, the things we just talked about.
Exactly. Skills to manage your own symptoms, your own challenges, independently, long after the therapy sessions end. It essentially aims to teach you how to become your own therapist.
I like that idea. Sustainable skills.
Yes. And it keeps the focus primarily on the present, providing practical solutions for the challenges you're facing right now.
Okay, that all sounds pretty compelling. But are there downsides? Or things people should consider? It can't be perfect for everyone or every situation, right?
That's a really important point.
Yeah.
No therapy is a magic bullet, and CBT is no exception. There are definitely nuances and considerations.
Like,
Firstly, commitment. CBT requires active participation. It's not passive. You need to engage in the sessions, and crucially, you often need to do the work between sessions, the so-called homework.
practicing the techniques, doing the thought records.
Exactly. It takes effort. It's more like building a mental muscle or changing a lifestyle habit than just taking a pill. You have to put in the work.
Okay, good to know. What else?
Well, there can be initial discomfort. Confronting problems head-on, especially using techniques like exposure therapy, can definitely feel stressful or uncomfortable at first.
That makes sense. Facing fears isn't easy.
It isn't. But it's important to know that these effects are usually temporary. The research consistently shows that despite potential short-term discomfort, the long-term benefits and improvements are significant. But you might feel a bit worse before you feel better sometimes.
Okay, manage expectations there. Is it suitable for absolutely everyone?
Not necessarily. It does require certain cognitive resources, things like having reasonable memory and attention and the ability to think somewhat abstractly.
So it might be challenging for.
It could be more challenging, for example, for some older adults experiencing significant cognitive decline, perhaps those with certain types of dementia, or individuals recovering from a traumatic brain injury that affects those cognitive functions. Adaptations might be needed, or other approaches might be more suitable. Okay. Any other situations where it might not be the best fit or needs caution? Well, for some people, particularly those dealing with complex trauma or very deep grief, the strong focus in CBT on rational thinking and challenging thoughts might sometimes feel a bit invalidating.
How so?
It might feel like it's dismissing the depth of their emotional pain by trying to rationalize it too quickly. In those cases, other therapies, maybe like acceptance and commitment therapy, ACT, which puts more emphasis on accepting difficult emotions rather than just changing thoughts, might be a better starting point or a complementary approach.
Okay, so matching the therapy to the person's specific needs and experiences is key.
Absolutely. And there's also a slight caution for individuals with very strong obsessive traits. While CBT is very effective for OCD, the intense focus on examining thoughts needs to be managed carefully by the therapist to avoid inadvertently increasing rumination or getting stuck in analysis loops.
Ah, okay. Requires skill from the therapist.
Definitely. Yeah. The therapist's experience and, just as importantly, a good connection and collaborative relationship between you and the therapist, that therapeutic alliance are really crucial for effectiveness.
Makes sense. And what about medication? You mentioned it earlier.
Right. For certain conditions, particularly moderate to severe depression or anxiety disorders, the evidence strongly suggests that CBT is often most effective when it's combined with appropriate medication.
So it's not an either situation?
Often not. They can work together synergistically. The medication can sometimes help stabilize mood or reduce intense anxiety enough for the person to better engage with and benefit from the CBT techniques. One doesn't diminish the other. They can complement each other.
Okay, that's a really comprehensive look at the considerations. It paints a realistic picture.
That's the goal, understanding the strengths and the nuances.
So we've really taken quite a deep dive into CBT today, haven't we?
We certainly have.
We went from understanding that core principle, thoughts, feelings, behaviors, all being linked up to walking through some really powerful techniques. Cognitive restructuring, thought records, exposure, behavioral experiments. You should now have a much clearer picture, hopefully, of how this gold standard therapy can offer really practical, potentially lifelong tools for managing your mental well-being.
And I think the true elegance of it, as we said, is that it really does hand you the reins. It's about empowering you to become the expert on your own mind.
Right, giving you those strategies to navigate challenges even long after any formal therapy might end, becoming your own therapist in a way.
Exactly.
So, thinking about all this, what does it mean for you listening right now? Maybe consider a recent moment when you felt overwhelmed or frustrated or anxious. Can you perhaps identify just one unhelpful thought that might have popped up and contributed to that feeling? Just one.
And maybe, what's one small piece of evidence, something you already know or experienced, that might challenge that thought, even just a little bit?
That's a great provocative thought to leave people with, just that small exercise.
This knowledge we've shared is a fantastic starting point. If this deep dive has sparked your curiosity at all, just imagine the possibilities if you started applying some of these principles, even in small ways, in your own life.
Yeah. We really encourage you to continue exploring if it resonates.
Definitely.
Well, thank you for joining us on this enlightening deep dive into CBT.
Thank you. It was a great discussion.
We look forward to exploring another fascinating topic with you next time.